I talked to one of the refs when she checks in. Hey, we got history from the first game.
There's not just the voice. There's these pictures, that have come out, and I know a lot of people immediately want to say, "Well, these are, they're not real pictures, right? They're doctored photographs." But this one I saw, I was like, man, that's actually the girlfriend in the background.
I'm only hopeful if she doesn't win. If she wins, we're going to have a real problem in this country. And the problem will be on the world level, it'll be on a national level, and it'll be on a state level. I don't know what she brings to the table other than disaster.
Okay, get ready, because this is wild. Brittany Griner's Olympic dream wasn't just crushed on the court, it got absolutely blindsided in a courtroom by none other than Jeanine Pirro. Yeah, the TV judge who basically became a legal bulldog overnight. You heard that right, Griner, one of women's basketball's biggest names, is out of the Olympics after the most shocking legal battle you could even imagine. If you're wondering how this nightmare scenario even became real, let me break it down, because this just might be the wildest twist the sport has ever seen. When news first dropped that Pirro was taking Griner to court, fans were completely bewildered. It sounded like a joke, something straight out of a late-night sketch. But folks, it was 100% real, and the stakes were higher than anyone ever thought possible. We're not talking about some fines or a quick suspension, we're talking about the freaking Olympics, the biggest stage in the world for any athlete. Pirro walked into this fight, not as a former judge you'd expect, but as someone claiming to protect the integrity of women's athletics, which honestly made everyone raise an eyebrow. Why would an outsider come after one of the WNBA's biggest stars? But here's the kicker, she did it. From the very first hearing, it was clear this wasn't getting brushed under the rug. The court actually granted the case legitimacy, and suddenly, what felt like a sideshow exploded into a massive headline event. Everyone was asking, what evidence could Pirro possibly have? Could she actually take down Brittany Griner at the peak of her career? The courtroom quickly became the new arena. On one side, Griner's legal team was trying to argue that this whole thing was ridiculous, totally unnecessary, and way out of bounds. But on the other, Pirro stood firm, bringing the heat with claims that blew past simple trash talk. She straight up accused Griner of undermining the very spirit of women's competition, dragging her training methods, international career decisions, and even whispers of unfair advantages right into the glaring spotlight. You could practically feel the tension in every single session. The judges weren't laughing, they were leaning in, they were listening, and as the case kept unfolding, the whole dynamic began to shift. Griner, who's used to absolute domination on the court, suddenly looked vulnerable in an environment she simply couldn't control. Every new angle Pirro's team presented just added more weight, and it wasn't about points or rebounds anymore. It was about credibility, it was about fairness, and whether Griner's Olympic eligibility could even survive that cross-examination. And get this, week after week, Pirro kept landing critical blows. Instead of this lawsuit just fading away, it just grew bigger and bigger, and fans watching from home couldn't believe Griner was actually in serious trouble. Then came the moment that changed everything. The judges delivered their ruling, and trust me, it sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. Brittany Griner was officially barred from competing in the upcoming Olympics. Just like that, her path to representing her country on the biggest stage imaginable was gone. For a player who's literally built her reputation on global competition, this wasn't just a setback, it was absolutely devastating. Analysts immediately called it the harshest punishment ever handed down in modern sports history, and people simply couldn't wrap their heads around how could a courtroom decision led by someone who's never even stepped foot on a professional basketball court decide the Olympic fate of one of the game's top players. Inside the courthouse, Pirro wasted no time making her voice heard, claiming victory not for herself, but for women everywhere, declaring it proof that cheating and bending the rules would never ever be tolerated. Meanwhile, Griner stood there, stunned, barely able to process what had just happened. For someone so used to controlling the paint, she'd just been boxed out in a way no defender had ever managed before. The ruling was official, and the consequences, oh, they were absolutely massive. This ruling didn't just stop Griner from chasing Olympic gold, it completely flipped how people looked at her. She walked into that courtroom as a bona fide star, larger than life in the WNBA, a name you couldn't avoid if you followed basketball at all. She walked out under a cloud of suspicion, someone being openly mocked for letting a TV judge expose her weaknesses. Analysts who once praised her skills started questioning her credibility. Even Griner's biggest fans, who saw her as untouchable, suddenly had doubt. The fact that she barely spoke after the verdict only made her look weaker, almost like she had no defense left. It wasn't the image of a dominant center who blocked shots with ease. It was the image of someone unprepared, caught completely flat-footed, left to deal with the overwhelming fallout. Griner has definitely had her share of controversies before, but this one hit differently. It didn't matter how many points she scored in the past or how many highlights she created. In this moment, she looked like an athlete who had been thoroughly outplayed, and the person who did it wasn't an all-star forward or a rival coach. It was Jeanine Pirro, standing outside the arena with a legal ruling firmly in hand. But as if the courtroom loss wasn't damaging enough, something else began swirling almost immediately. Those long-standing rumors about Brittany Griner's gender resurfaced, bringing with them a fresh wave of questions and speculation about whether she'd had an unfair advantage all along. These whispers have followed her throughout her career, but this time they were given a terrifying new platform. Pirro's legal team didn't shy away from the topic either, reportedly bringing it up as a critical part of their argument. Suddenly, the entire conversation shifted from basketball skills and Olympic eligibility to biology and the very definition of fairness in women's sports. Whether people believe the reports or not, the fact that they were directly tied to an actual legal decision made them louder than ever. Griner found herself mocked in ways that went way beyond her game, with critics openly questioning if she ever truly belonged in the women's division at all. It was ugly, it was controversial, and you better believe it only fueled Pirro's victory even further. For Griner, this wasn't just about losing an Olympic dream anymore. It was about fighting a perception war that had just been reignited in the harshest, most public way possible. And once that kind of debate starts, well, silencing it is nearly impossible. So let's really think about what this ruling actually means. The Olympics aren't just another tournament for athletes, they are the ultimate goal, the pinnacle of years of brutal training, immense sacrifice, and unwavering dedication. Griner had already been seen as an absolute lock for Team USA, a player expected to dominate on the international stage once again. Now all of that is gone. She isn't just sidelined for a game, or even a season, she's completely stripped of the chance to compete for her country. That, my friends, is the kind of blow you simply cannot easily recover from. Fans expected to see her wear the red, white, and blue, but instead, they'll watch her sit at home wondering how it all unraveled so incredibly fast. And believe me, this hurts her financially too. Olympic exposure leads to massive endorsements, global recognition, and opportunities that extend far beyond the court. Without it, Griner's future looks a lot less certain, and emotionally, it's devastating. Imagine spending your entire life preparing for that moment, only to have it snatched away in a courtroom, not an arena. For Griner, this ruling doesn't just bruise her reputation, it absolutely shatters her legacy. On the other side, Jeanine Pirro celebrated like she'd just hit a game-winning shot at the buzzer. Standing outside the courthouse, she declared the ruling wasn't just a win for her, but for women everywhere, stating that this case set a new standard, that no athlete, no matter how famous, could bend the rules without severe consequences. Her words cut deep, and they spread like wildfire. To some, she sounded like a hero, courageously defending fairness in sports. To others, she was just cashing in on the spotlight, plain and simple. Either way, Pirro owned that moment completely. She painted herself as the protector of integrity, someone fiercely willing to challenge even the biggest names in athletics. And the truth is, she came out looking stronger than ever. Whether you agree with her or not, you absolutely cannot deny that she completely flipped the script. Brittany Griner, the WNBA legend, was left silent, while Pirro, the TV judge, walked away as the undeniable victor. It was surreal, it was dramatic, and it felt like the kind of moment that will be replayed for years to come whenever people talk about consequences in sport. The ripple effect across the WNBA was immediate. Some players were genuinely stunned, unable to believe that one of their own could be sidelined in such an unprecedented way. Others, though, behind closed doors, weren't quite as sympathetic. Whispers started circulating that some athletes felt Griner had been coasting on her name for years, and this ruling, well, it exposed her. The league itself faced an incredibly awkward position. Do you defend one of your most high-profile stars, or do you quietly let the controversy just fade away? For younger players trying to make a name for themselves, the message was crystal clear. Fame doesn't protect you forever. The reaction wasn't uniform at all. That division made the league look fractured. Some stood firmly by Griner, calling the ruling unfair and wildly disproportionate. Others distanced themselves. Period. Griner's team immediately vowed to appeal, but experts quickly pointed out just how difficult that path would be. Once a ruling like this is in place, overturning it is far from easy. The legal weight is incredibly heavy, and Pirro's team knows it. At the same time, rumors started flying about what Pirro might do next. Some even speculated she could go after other big-name athletes if she wanted to make another statement. Names like LeBron James and Serena Williams have actually been tossed around in fan conversation. While that's probably unlikely, the very fact that people even imagine it shows just how much attention this case grabbed. Meanwhile, reports surfaced that Griner's past accolades could be reviewed under new scrutiny, potentially meaning her legacy itself could be entirely rewritten. Appeals, investigations, speculation, all of it points to one undeniable truth: this saga isn't over. The courtroom might have delivered one ruling, but the real fight for Griner is only just beginning. And honestly, the odds don't look great. So when you take a step back and really look at this entire situation, you realize it's way bigger than just Jeanine Pirro versus Brittany Griner, right? This is about how rules get enforced, who actually gets to decide what fairness means, and ultimately how much power a courtroom can truly have over the world of sports. For years, we all kind of assumed that what happened on the court stayed on the court, but this case, it proved us all wrong. It showed that reputations, entire legacies, and yes, even those lifelong Olympic dreams can absolutely be destroyed outside of any arena. For Pirro, this is the ultimate power play. She cemented herself as a figure who truly isn't afraid to challenge the biggest giants out there. And for Griner, well, this is the harshest defeat of her career, and honestly, it's one she might never truly recover from.